which means you have to know the entire board. He made pieces. He used the rock hammer to fashion pieces on a chessboard, and when you're playing chess, I don't know anything about chess, but I've been told something about it, that basically it's sophisticated checkers. I know a little bit about checkers because I used to play the game when I was around maybe 12 years old or something like that, and see elderly people play checkers and whatnot. So I noticed that accomplished checker players are people who study the entire board.
Yes.
Not just their side of the board. In other words, if you're going to be what they call an expert checker player, to the best of my understanding, learning years ago, you know what moves your opponent is going to make before your opponent makes them. And within the context of fighting, resisting, and or eliminating racism, this is something that I say that the victims of racism, which is what this program is really about, have to learn to study the moves of their opponents to the extent that you just about can tell what your opponent is going to do, that your opponent in this case, if you're a victim of racism, would be the racists, the people who believe in racism and or white supremacy, which is racism. You must study them enough to know or to approximately guess what they are likely to do before they do it in matters that involve you. Otherwise, there's no way of defeating racism. But the rock hammer was a tool, just like I made the analogy, the equivalent that was raised, the question was raised, what would be the rock hammer when you're talking about counter-racism? Mm-hmm. And I just recommended my book and a lot of other books, not just my book, but I would say that, since I wrote it, a book that is designed to help a person do that, the rock hammer principle, that you could kind of start with that, and you read dozens of other books, and certainly you must do that. And books written by the racists themselves, which is a part of it, of this overall strategy. Mm-hmm. But see, these are just tools, but you also work, and here's where I make reference to another movie. What did Michael Corleone say? Because you're dealing with gangsters when you're dealing with the white supremacists, with racists. They are gangsters. They are capitalistic, communistic, socialistic gangsters.
Yes.
The top of the line. The world has never invented anybody like them. I mean, as far as power and ingenuity. I mean, they put it all together. It's an excellent system for getting things done. But the problem is, it gets things done at the expense of many corpses, many destroyed people by the millions and millions and millions. But it gets things done materialistically. But then that's another story that we can talk about.
Yes.
That's the general frame of reference. Mm-hmm. But in order to bring it down, you have to study how it's put together and the people who put it together and how they go about operating in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. You have to know how the races operate in all of these areas of activity. Otherwise, there's no way to efficiently defeat racism and replace it with a system of justice.
Exactly.
But the tools that you use, or any tools, words, that's what books are for, words. So you can read many books. You also look at television. A lot of people say, well, I don't look at television because there's nothing but a bunch of propaganda and whatnot. Well, you learn the propaganda. Always look at anything that exists. A leaf on a tree, a bird flying through the air over your head, something you may not pay attention to ordinarily. Why? Because it's there. Anything in your universe affects you, either directly or indirectly.